But I actually, in monitoring, I think it's, it's cool to give kids trust. No, fortunately. Anyways, I remember her throwing these plates and then giving us the opportunity to decorate them. And what I did is I was like, oh, I'm going to scratch all over this plate, and then in between each spot, I'm going to alternate these colors. And we had pink, yellow, green, and maybe blue underglazes. And I quickly learned how frustrating pottery can be, and I was hooked. So since I was a little kid, and anytime in school when in art class when we'd work on pottery, that's all I wanted to do. I did not want to leave that room. And I had a teacher in high school that let me come in the morning. She let me come in during my lunch. She let me come in after school. And yeah, she was really great. And she continues to be great because she'll call me and say, hey, do you want a 10-gallon bucket of this glaze? And I'm like, yeah, I do.
Free glaze.
Yeah. And she's always saying nice things to me about my work. And so she's still supporting me even though I've doubled my age since I was in her class. Anyways, so then I went to school here, and I took ceramics in this classroom with Stan. So it's a little bit surreal to be doing this. And this was a really great space for me too, because just like in high school where I came in every chance I could get, I did that here too, and I took every class that I could until I ran out of classes. And then I still had 2 years left. And Stan said, well, how about we just make a position for you so you can be my studio tech, and you can still come in and you can work on clay whenever you want, and you'll just help me, load kilns and mix glazes. And so not only did I get to come in here and still have a place to work, but I got to deepen my knowledge, and that was really cool. So I'd studied art education, and I went on to be a special ed teacher for a couple of years. Worked at a local studio, and I found that I was firing a lot of other people's work, and I didn't have a lot of time for my own work because I had a full-time job, a side job, and another job. So I had 3 jobs, just working all the time, barely getting to make any pots. So did that for about 5 years, and then I quit my teaching job, got a different job, started working down at Eye of the Dog Art Studio, which is just the dreamiest place. And if you haven't been there, you really need to get your buns down there, because Billy and Beverly are just wonderful people, so warm and welcoming. It's the coolest community, and that's where I've started wood firing and soda firing and learning these alternative techniques that I didn't have an opportunity to try out otherwise. So anyways, when COVID hit, my husband and I started building our studio in our backyard because he was home from work. My son was 8 months at that time, and we had just a lot of time. So we were like, let's build our studio. So we did it ourselves. We learned how to build, and that's where I work now. And it's really, really cool to be able to go out in my backyard and make a pot. What a cool thing. So anyways, let me share with you guys my process. So when I was a student here, I bought these little bowls, these little glass bowls, because I wanted to use them to make a plaster mold of and start using them for slump molds. Well, I didn't get that far because they were packaged between these. So the little glass bowl sat on top of, it was smaller than this, but they sat in between these, and I was like, okay, this is an interesting shape. So I started rolling these into clay, cutting them out, and making these little shapes, which I will pass out. I blew it up on a copy machine, and let me pass these to you. And I'll pass these to you. You guys can kind of zigzag. And so I blew them up, and I started, experimenting with how these things can connect. Oh, and then these are this was a hot dog wrapper. But guess that like something as like vile as a hot dog could, you know, end up with something like this. And this is a Malcolm Davis Chino, and this pot is what helped me fall in love with Chinos. So anyway, now I'm always looking at packaging. I have several packaging books which I meant to grab but I forgot.
Explain to him that that's not trash.
I'm so sorry to all the significant others who don't want to say, don't throw that away! And I'm sorry to you, Caleb. Public apology. But you know, I just started like playing with these forms, and then I started making cups with these, but I wasn't thinking much about like all that much about how I could alter the form. I was just making, you know, like the coffee cup, cutting it up and basically making my own coffee cup. And then when I was firing them, I was like, oh man, shrinkage, like this mouth is now really small. And so I started making them a little bigger and trying to like figure these things out. And then I started putting them on their bottom. And so a couple of years later, I thought, you know, I remember Stan throwing a cylinder and darting it when we were in school. I wonder if I could do something like that. And that kind of plays into this idea. I'm gonna flip this cup upside down and start cutting them up. And so then I started making all these different paper forms to try to, you know, figure out what I like. And so like this paper, if you look at the size of this dart here, makes a cup with like where it sits closer to the ground. And so just experimenting with these, some of them I did, you know, you'll see some of these are folded, this one's flat. That's more of like a cylinder straight up and down, something like this. This has 4 darts in it. So, I'll pass these around. Remind me to like if I just start setting, just be like, you can pass it around. You guys can remind me of stuff because I might need it. So yeah, just all. You know, so sometimes I write little notes on my thing, like, so I can learn from them. Oh, and working on these like undulating rims was something I started playing with last year, and that's been kind of fun. Like, basically, I like the idea of having like a place for your hand to sit, and then like a channel for the like fluid to like go into your body. Like that's fun. And yeah, so I'll pass these around. How about I do this? I mean, you guys know what like undone coffee cups look like, so if you don't really want to pass around or whatever, that's fine. But yeah, so I started making bigger forms. Like this is a vase, and that idea just basically came from this, but I wanted it more rounded. And then I was like, oh, I could make pictures like that with a handle. Like I've done this size too, which takes like a very large slab, but yeah, it's something I'm still like trying to play with and figure out. But yeah, I'm just basically looking at everything, and right now I'm trying to figure out these little like nesting bowls. So I've been drawing these triangles, rounding them, and then like darting into them. So this is wet clay, but I will pass it out so you guys can kind of look at it. And then this is one of those dishes. So that's been really fun to just, you know, experiment with. And but I think my favorite, like all-time favorite thing to make has been these cups. And this particular one that has gotten the honor of being traced into foam because I like it so much. This one is this shape. Again with a little bit of undulation on this rim. And my friend helped me make some pretty cool tools over here that are helping with the rims. So I'm really appreciating these. He's here right now, is Corey. So if you guys are interested in like tools, he's got your back there. So anyways, let me start showing you my process.
You dropped one template. Sorry, I don't want you.
Oh, thank you. my handle. Get a grip. Okay, so when I roll out my slabs, I have let me just check my thing. This is a Cone 5, no, this is Dilla White. Right now my two favorite clays are Dilla White and Cone 5 Porcelain. I also like Grauleg and Balcones Dark. But right now, Dilla White has been just really something I'm really enjoying working with. So when I roll out slabs, I do it in like a multi-step process, and this took me a while to figure out. I used to just like get my clay, cut it off, and start rolling and rolling and rolling until I got it the thickness I wanted. But what I learned is that if I slow down and I do it in stages, like I will roll it out pretty thick, like about that thick. And then I'll just kind of cut it out pretty thick, like about, a couple inches. And then I'll just hammer it with the side of my hand up and down, and then I make one side more narrow, and I run it through the slab roller at a pretty thick diameter. And then I let that sit until it's not tacky anymore. And then I run it through again, and then I do the same thing. And between each time, I like to rib them. So I have this little rib that's really great. It's a Cheryl mud tool. It's a Mud Tools rib, and I just get a little bit of water on it, and I go every direction. And I do that on the top and bottom, and I do that in between each stage. And basically I do that 3 times to get down to just about a 1/4 inch, and then I hand roll the rest of it, or I like throw the slab on the table to stretch it. So I do one or the other depending on, like, I guess probably my mood or something, I don't know. Mm-hmm. There's not a real science about why I choose which one I choose. It's just sometimes I choose one and sometimes I choose the other. So yeah, I always rib my work. This helps to like compress the clay, and it also like cleans up any like my slab roller has like a thick canvas, and I don't want that texture on my pots. Like if that's a look that you want, then I still would suggest that you like compress your slabs and then roll that texture on after, just because it does help with the strength. When I flip slabs, I grab it, I pancake it between my hands like this, and then kind of almost like slide it down like that. And so I rib both sides.
Are you working on plasterboard?
I am. So this is plasterboard that I've added tape around the edges, and this is like that tape that goes on the side of books. Grafters tape, I think it's called. Gaffers? Gaffers? Yes. It's a paid sponsorship from Anyways, so yeah, I just do that so I don't get like plaster all over the place or in my slabs, which could cause a problem. And then I take my template, I'll do my favorite, and I just line it up on the slab, and I don't like to cut too close to the edge because this part does get more drying. So I like to give myself like about a 1/2 inch, and then that stuff just goes into reclaim, aka future trash, because I hate reclaiming clay. I'll just save up about like 1,000 pounds of clay, and then I'm like, I won't do it, I can't do it, and like I need a reclaim crew, so if anyone wants to come reclaim clay with me, please do. You're like, no. Okay, so I like to cut my, does anyone have any questions so far about anything?
How thick is that?
This one?
It's really thin.
It's pretty thin. I'd say it's probably about like maybe 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
Pass it around.
No, what I was going to mention is that I text you, if you want me to bring you some tar paper, because, I figure, since you do the dark figures, and you said that it's itchy. So I have never heard people getting an allergic reaction from it.
I haven't heard anyone else say that either, and I really wish I could use it, because do you know who, I don't know how you say his last name, but I think it's like Mike Serve, or Serve. I love his pots, but he uses tar paper, and he has, like, he's into darts, and he has like similar, you know, ideas, but I get like this horrible rash when I use it, but I also get like a horrible rash when I throw with certain clays, so like, I don't know if it's actually the clay or like, you know, I don't know, like I'm getting scratches
Or
in
the
the
combination
clay.
of the tar paper.
Yeah, my skin's really sensitive, so. So anyways, I use this is like a scalpel, and these are what I like to use to like cut out my templates. You can't like, you don't want to like gouge down because you'll like tear your tabletop or surface up. So I just kind of glide it through gently. And when I cut here, if you'll notice in some of my other pots, I've lately been really liking overlapping them. And so I do a slight bevel still. I don't just cut straight up and down, but I like to do like a slight bevel. So I will come in on my slab, and I like to start about I don't know, that's probably 1/8 of an inch higher than where I'm actually cutting. And sometimes I miss my mark, so then I go back up and I just kind of start over. And I drag it all the way through. And then I go to the other side and I do the same thing. I usually do those 2 cuts first. And then after that, I think about which side I want to be like the inside of the cup and which side I want to be the outside of the cup, because I like to also cut the lip at a slight angle. I kind of like a sharp lip for several reasons. I really like when I have a cup and I bring it up to my mouth, I like to be reminded that it's like a handmade object, and I like it to feel a little bit different than like just like a store-bought cup or like whatever. I like that reminder that it's like something that's handmade. But you also have to be careful, because sometimes, like I've made some that have been pretty sharp, and then I have to like file them down because I don't want to be like slicing anybody's lips. But I do always check, and like I sand all my pots afterward, and anyways. But I like to, for the lip, I like to again start a little outside. Can you guys see? Like, should I maybe do this?
Like every now and then, maybe after, you can just hold it up. Yeah.
I'll get this cut out, and then yeah. So I just come in at an angle, and I cut. Oh yeah, good point. I cut all the way. I like to try to do it in one pass if I can, but sometimes, like right here, I went a little high right there, but I'm not going to worry about that too much because I will like soften that with my fingers slightly. Okay, so I cut in right there, and that means this top part is going to be the outside of my cup. And so on the bottom, I also do that same angle, because then when I put the foot on, it's not like I'm having to push it in really far to like find this edge. Like it just matches up better. So I come in with that angle, and I like to cut this one again just straight across like this all the way to the other side, and I like to move my extra clay out of my way. So then on these, so that's where I am so far. Can you guys? So then on this part is the part that trips me up a lot of the time, because sometimes I cut it and then like when I go forming it, I'm like, oh, I got it wrong, and I have to like try to backpedal and like figure out how to thank you, how to cut it. I mean assemble it. So I have this this cut under here, and I'm gonna come in here, and I'm gonna do basically like a bevel. So I'm cutting the same angle like that.
So the darts can kiss each other.
Yes, so that this lines up with that. And I've been making these darted cups for a while now, and just working with darts in general, and I like still mess this up like frequently. Like I think like I think I messed it up with one of those, and I was like, cool. You know, I don't know. I someday, you know what I think every time is like I need to draw an arrow on my template, but I don't have like a pen handy, and then like I go do other things and forget it. So someday you guys will see me with. That's when I've made it. I'll be on Ceramics Arts Network like.
It's like article on drawing an arrow.
Labeling my templates.
Yeah. Ugh. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one. All right, so after I do that, I've got my slab cut out. I like to get all my pieces out of the way, and I just like to do a little, this is such an important step, you guys. It's so underrated, but just like clean your surface. And then I dip my fingers in water, and I go over everywhere that I just sliced to soften it up a little bit. And I'm not like, these areas that are getting attached, I'm not as like concerned with, but I do like to just add a little bit of extra water and soften them, because sometimes they show, and these all overlap, so they will show. So then I flip it over, and I do the same thing over here. And my slab's like a little bit hard right here, so I'm gonna just kind of brush it with water and hope it
Makes it look good.
Yeah. Had it sitting in the car all hot, and my slabs don't usually sit in the car, so sorry, slab. Speaking of, I need to cover this one up a little bit. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, cool. All right, so after I get that done, I like to figure out where I'm putting my, which side is gonna be the top and which side's gonna be the bottom of this attachment. And so since I beveled in that way, this side will be on the inside of the cup, this will be on the outside. Oh, wait, yeah, that's right, okay. So, like, so then I just start manipulating the clay around, and I bring it to about where I'm going to mark it. I get my slip, and I add a little bit of slip here, and then I roll it on top like that. And before I attach it, I just look and see if that looks about right to me. And I'm liking that amount of overlap. So now I open it back up, and I take my, this is a, I don't know how you say it, zine tool. Love this tool.
Is this a rated one?
Yes, it's serrated, and it's like, it fits in your hand. I used to take the like D-shaped ones and cut them, and that is not very friendly on your hands. I have sustained injuries. So this tool is like wonderful. And then I scratch it up, score it up on both slabs. And I'm not entirely sure this matters, but I like to do like one is coming, like I scratch both ways, but then I do one down, and then this one I'll do like across like this, so that they're like a perpendicular pattern. I don't know if that adds strength, but like in my brain it does, so that's what I do. And then I apply my slip, and my slip, if you guys smelled it when I opened it, that's because I used vinegar and dried clay to make it, so it stinks. But it makes a really, really nice slip. There's also some water in it. So then I take my slab, and I usually do this facing me, but to show you guys, I'll do it like this. And I roll it like that, and then I compress with my hand right here, I'm running my thumb to compress this here. Okay. And so I've compressed that, and then I'm just gonna leave that slip for a little while. I'll clean it up later. So then I take my new favorite tool, and so as I said before, I've been playing with like undulating rims and just different, like the rim having a different like, I don't know if profile is the right word, but like I'm playing around with like which part gets, like follows the triangle, the dart. So like for this one, it's like a solid, it's like triangle. This one, if you can see, it's gone,
It's a star.
like opposite. Yeah, so it's like a star. And that's been like super fun to, to play with. With this one, since my clay is pretty dry and it's like cracking a little bit, I'm gonna follow the triangles, the darts that I already have, because it will, structurally, it'll be better than trying to like this is better made with like softer clay. So I'll pass these two around if you guys want to see. Oh, and let me see, okay, put that in there. That's the wadding that one was fired with. I fired it on its side, and so like the wadding got like part of the underglaze like burned into it, and I'm like,
That's awesome.
that was very exciting to me. Okay, so then I take this tool, which I line it up inside of here and just look at my darts and just follow each one and just adjust them as I need to. And I just am kind of manipulating and pressing the clay closer to that. So then once I've done that, I flip it, and now I'm going to start bringing these darts together. So, water. Can everybody see okay, or can you guys see? Do you want me to move this? Okay. So I'm gonna put a dab at each of these spots of water, just since they are pretty dry. And I'm about to push this clay in, so I want to kind of address that if I can. Okay, so then I like to start with, so the side that goes in is the bevel, that's facing out. And so I start like pushing that one in, and then I rotate the cup, push the next one in, and when I get to the seam, I kind of have to push that in a little bit too, because I don't want to be like pulling the seam apart. Rotate it a little more, push it in, and I go around and I do that like twice. And then get my rib. I like to get it wet. It just helps it kind of glide on there. And again, I'm going both ways, but doing like perpendicular attachments. I mean, finishing perpendicularly with the scoring. Okay, and after I get it scored, I apply my slip. Okay, so with my slip, I apply it to both sides with an emphasis on this little area in the corner, because I want that to be really secure. After I get it applied, I then go in and I do almost the same thing as before, where I'm like pushing this in with this finger, except I'm just holding it this time. And then with this other finger, I'm just easing. I don't know if this is gonna be a better view for you guys, but I just like ease that clay over like this. And so it ends up looking like that.
So
And then,
because you have the bevel, you are basically making them both meet
yes,
in the angle, and then just kind of like saying, okay, kiss.
yes.
It's not like you're squeezing.
Well, I will go in after I get them
But
all
at this point,
attached,
no.
but not at this point. I've found that if I get one really well attached, and then I go and I do I do that with all of them, the first one that I started with gets kind of like either misshaped or it like loses some of the integrity because it gets like a little bit tweaked. So I find it better to get it like just like attached, but not like it's not like super like welded together yet. And like sometimes I'll even just get them like that and I'll do all three and then I'll go back and like, you know, come back and like wiggle them together. But yeah, I use like, I'm not always using like my fingertips or, you know, like I use like the sides of my fingers a lot to like roll the clay. Like I'm like doing this. So my hands hurt a lot and like I feel like it's because of these like weird things that I do. like I get my hands really stiff and I don't know, but it's part of being a potter. Yes. So yeah, I do that and then I come in and clean my hands up because I don't want to get like, you know, I don't want to like get like messy spots in my pot. So clean my hands up and then I'll stick my finger on the inside here and then I go in and I like more solidly attach these.
What did you do before you had those 3D prints?
The glue.
Flower pot. And then I would like use, like I'm pretty sure, didn't I send you like pictures of my hand in like weird shapes? I think I was like, can you make this like weird like? So yeah, this has been seriously. This is like, I want to get more because it's like wonderful. And I found other ways to use it too, which you guys will see, which has made me very happy. So then after I go in with my finger, I use this very, very soft rib. That's a technical term. And
It's the softness of the motters.
yes,
So
very, very soft.
yeah.
It's very, very lovely. I'm like looking for this yellow tie-dyed towel. Okay, here it is.
Like your safety net?
I've been like
your binky?
I've been trying to like in like my pants and like they're not the same. I need one of these. we have our ways.
So where do we get the tie-dye towels?
I made it.
Ourselves. So we don't have our, we can't get one then.
But when people take my class, I give them.
Oh.
But they're I actually got the towels that they're like just those
Dish towels?
what are they called?
Tea towels.
It's just called a tea towel?
Like flour sack kind of stuff?
Flour sack, that's what I was trying to say. I was like, it's some kind of bag that people store stuff in. Like somewhere in the ballpark of what it is. I know, that's my picture. It's like, I always am like at a loss for words, like for the right word, because in my brain it's not that way.
It's visual.
Yeah. And anyways, they're so great for like wiping tools on. Like it's better than this kind, and it's easier to clean up too, like clean later. Like I feel like it's less abuse to my washing machine.
I use a lot of those old IKEA towels.
Yes, I have those too.
For like 50 cents.
They're great. Those are great. So then I after I get those attached, I just go over the foot a little bit here. And if you'll see, it looks like that's flat, right? Well, do you remember earlier when I said I cut it out of bevel?
Mm-hmm.
That's because when I brought that in, it was like bringing that angle. And like some of these things are things that I didn't figure out until making like, you know, like 20 cups or something and being like everyone being like, "Wah!" it's taking troubleshooting is what I'm trying to say. So then I take it off of there, and now I'm gonna like try to like level it up. So I try to get down on the cups so I can see it. I actually have like a banding wheel that I do this with at home. And my table is like tall, like really tall. But I just move it around and try to like eyeball that it's, level. I'm trying to make sure I'm not like, I'm getting in the view of that, so. And then on the inside, I have some cleaning up to do, and I also like to add a little clay. So I rip away a little bit of clay, and again, I'm not using this edge stuff because it's like been exposed to air and it's not as soft. But basically now what I do, I dip that in the water, and then I make like 3 little like teardrop shapes. So it's like a skinny coil that has like a little ball at the end. And I do 3 of those because there are 3 darts. If this cup had 4, I would make 4. Maybe that was self-explanatory. Maybe it was not. So 3. And then after I have these guys made, I pick my pot up, and I usually sit at this point in my studio. I stand most of the time when I work, but for this step I sit because I like to like use my stomach as a tool too. When I was pregnant, it was really nice because I liked it. But I don't have that luxury anymore. Anyways, I then press that little like coil thing. I love this also. Zeem tool. Can they just not name them? Hard for me to say words. Run it by me, please. Just kidding. So then I smear that in to just give that inside coil a little bit more strength. And I do each side that way.
Does the rounded part go in the corner?
Yes, the rounded part goes into the corner, and I push that in. And the reason is because it has a pretty sharp angle, and I do that. I add a coil for 2 reasons. For one, it adds strength to that area, and for 2, and like most of these are wood or soda fired or high fire gas reduction, so they're like kind of getting like a lot of atmosphere, and I want to make sure that I can make it as like sturdy as possible.
Did you put slip on it before you added the coil?
I do not, because there's a little slip. Sometimes if you look, there's like a little left over in there. Not a lot, but I don't. But what I do after I add them is I like brush them with a wet brush. So it also, that kind of cleans it up and also adds a little bit of slip. But the other thing is, inside of there, that point is very, very deep. And when I'm washing dishes, if there's an area that's hard to get to, and I had something like a smoothie in it or something like thicker, that's gonna be so annoying to me because I don't like doing dishes, and I want like I want to be like able to do it as fast as possible. So that's a consideration for me as well, and I just think it's more hygienic. So I do like to try to get that coil pushed into that corner. And like, some of the less steep, like this one for instance, it's a little less steep. That may or may not need it, it's kind of on a case to case basis, but for the most part, they need a little attention there. So I smooth those in. Okay, what time is it?
How many do you make at a time?
Usually just 1, sometimes 2. I've tried to do the assembly line thing and it stresses me out. I did make 3 at a time one time, and but a lot of, I don't know. Caleb and I have 2 young kids, and I never know exactly how long I'm gonna have until my son might want to terrify me. So his thing right now is he wants to scare me, and I'll be in the studio making something, and he runs in, and I won't see him, and he'll be like, "Boo!" and I'm like, you know, which I'm like, I need to work on my reactions, but you know, I think about spooky stuff sometimes when I'm alone too, working, you know, I get in my head about things that are creepy, and then
on the door.
Yeah. So, anyways, okay, so I'm not gonna clean that up quite as I spend a lot of time on each pot. If I make a cup in a fast way, it takes me about 45 minutes. That's a fast cup for me. Most of the time I spend closer to an hour and 15 to an hour and 30 minutes on each cup. Just because I think I work a little bit slow, but also I'm really I'm kind of meticulous, and I don't know, it seems I'm attracted to making things that are tedious in general. I also like making bread and doing all these things. I like to crochet and all these weird things that are kind of a pain in the ass. So
It's quality over quantity.
yeah, but to me that's the most soothing thing. So, but you know, other people are I don't have patience for this. I like gardening, anyways. So then I go in and clean up those coils, and I usually these are looking a little bit sloppy because I usually spend a lot more time. I'll use this tool, and then I'll go in with this tool, and then I'll go in with this tool, and you know, just hit it with every tool in my tool basket. But you know, for the sake of time, I will move on to the foot. So I need to now double check that I didn't unlevel it again, because it's something I have to check a lot. Sometimes I'll do that where I just tap it down to get it back to where I want it. Okay, so now I'm gonna add a foot. So I'm going to uncover my clay here, and so as I use this top part to make this wonderful shape for the top, I've been also pressing this into my clay here like this to get this lovely foot. So I go in after I do that.
So you needed to make you a cutter.
And I attach these two.
Oh, so you're doubling it up?
Yes, to make it thicker. And I could roll out, have a thicker slab, but I don't do that. That would make too much sense. So then I add my slip here, and I'm just gonna do this on this one side. And oh, you know what? I skipped a step accidentally. So before I add that, let me move this cup right here. I cut out a tiny little triangle on here, and I just kind of follow that that edge and eyeball it like that. And I'm going in at an angle again because I don't want to have straight lines and then make it difficult for me to get it in there once it's on top of here and clean up.
You have 2 triangles, is that what we have?
Yes, so here I have this, and I've scratched and scored the back. And then I have a little bit more clay here that I've scratched, and I've now I will attach these two together like that. And then I'm still playing with how I want. I've only done a couple so far with with this foot, but I'm really, really liking it. I'm not sure if any of the finished ones have this
I
foot.
think this one.
That one, no, that one's different. It's similar, but that one does. So I'm like, I just really, really like that foot.
Ooh, you could make a press mold.
Yes, I like
And then you
press
could have your divot already in there and you just push your clay into
Yeah,
it.
that's a good idea.
And have those ready to go. Just make a bunch. Yeah.
See, this is what I need. Thank you.
And
So I clean after I cut that out, and now I'm gonna go in with this.
You need to wait about 5 years so your kid doesn't come.
He's so funny. He likes making pots with me too, and so he'll come in the studio. Like sometimes we'll do like clay dates or whatever, and
Do you call it clay dates?
Clay dates, yeah. And I didn't realize how much he was watching me, because when he was maybe like 2.5 years old, and he just started talking as he was working, and he was like cutting out a circle, and he like made a bowl from like start to finish and hit like every single step.
Wow.
Like he didn't miss a single step. And it was like just from watching me, because like I have this idea about like one of the things that's like important to me in like raising my children and like fostering creativity for them is like input before output before input, I meant to say. I said that backwards. So like I don't want to like be like, this is how you have to do clay and blah blah blah, you know what I mean? I want to see like what comes out of him. But like seeing that he was like just naturally observing, I don't know, it was like such a special, like it was like one of the most special moments in my life to like witness that. And like anyway, so being a mom's like really cool. So then I go in, now I'm like emotional. I'm gonna take a sip of water. I'm back. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in, and I have these two attached, and I'm going to cut again out a bevel around this edge here, and I'm just moving the clay along as I go. And I'm also like, you know, I'm also moving the tool, but I'm doing both. I'm kind of spinning the clay and using this tool as well. Unravel it. And now I can go through and just kind of clean up anywhere that I think, you know, like maybe the cut looks bad or whatever. Like right there, see there's like where I started. So I'm just gonna cut that a little closer, and then I take my rib again. Wait, this isn't the one. I need this one. Yellow rib. And I just go compress these two together and just fill in that little seam. And so I'm going up right now, and next I will go over this edge to soften it and just around. So a lot of times I'll pick it up and I'll go around. It's similar to how I address the slab in the beginning when I'm going every direction. I do that a little bit on here too. So then at this point I get my little stamp, so this has an M on it, and I figure out where I want my signature to go, and I like to figure out where this little piece is going to fit on this cup before I stamp it. So I'm going to do it like this, and I'll stamp the M so that the bigger part, like the wider bottom legs of the M are like towards the long edge. Okay, so we have that. And then I go in here, and this is something else that I figured out it's been really nice to like do this way, because it saves me like trying to figure things out. Is I add a little bit of slip to that, set this on it where I expect it to go, and then I take it off and it's left a little imprint. So now I can take my serrated rib. Thank you. My teeth, and scratch it up. Do you guys call it scratching or scoring? I always like, in my brain, I'm always like scratch and score, but then there's no slip, and then I'm like slip and score, scratch and score. Like, I don't know. I haven't figured it out in all this time. Scratch and sniff. So I go over that. Stan used to always say like chicken, don't chicken scratch it. Do you remember that?
I have to do a chicken dance.
Yeah. He was so fun. He was such a engaging and fun teacher. So I go over onto the sides here as well a little bit, and you'll see why in just a moment. I just try to get that really well. Okay, so now slip again. And this is going to be like the inside of the cup, or the bottom. So then I add it on here and bring it back to my tummy tool. And I just like round, again, I'm using like pads of my fingers, and I'm like just kind of tempting to play down with my finger. Sometimes it helps to get your finger a little bit wet, and I will add like a little bit of a indent there. I think that looks nice. And then after I have it where I think it ought to go, I put it back down and I readjust it before I really smooth it on there, because I might need to like wiggle it just to make sure it's not like sometimes, you know, one side will like be sticking up a little more. But I'm also not like, I'm not like hyper fixated on if it has a slight lean, because sometimes I actually really kind of like that movement. Like it just feels, I don't know, like a personality or something. So after I do that, I go back in and I push with my finger all around the edge, and I push that on to get that slip to come out. And then I leave it. And I go to clean up any areas over here, just lightly, because I'm gonna clean it up again more later. But I'm just getting any big marks and just compressing this area again to give it.
The area with the triangle that you cut out, is that on the bottom or on the inside? Yeah, it's on the bottom.
Yeah. So now that I have the bottom on, I'm gonna go in with my hand to support, and back to these tools, similar to how I did those little like long teardrops, except I usually don't need to add a coil here because there's enough clay, and then it just gets like, it's like a lot of extra smoothing. So what I do is I just push that slab in with this tool. I just push it in and just run it. I just like run it. So like they're kind of meeting up like this inside there. and I just take that tool and I just run it, and it like squeezes some of the slip out, and it pushes that the slabs together. And so I do that all the way around.
So the triangle helps you make your foot, basically.
This
Triangle on
right
the
here.
bottom.
Yes,
No,
yes.
No, the triangle on the bottom that you cut out helps
Yes.
create the foot.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
the foot of the pot. So that's the foot of the pot. So then I go in with my tool again and just double check that, like, I'll just see if anything's like moved out of place. I just push it back with my hand a little bit. And then I let it sit overnight, or, you know, a couple hours. And the way that I like to wrap them is I found that if I give extra attention to the lip of the pot, that's really important for like a slower drying process. So a lot of times what I do is, I lost one of my bags.
Shower bags?
What?
Shower bags? Yeah,
Shower
No,
cap.
but that's,
shower bags. Those work really
You go to
well.
Sally Beauty Supply and
Those work.
60.
do you have to have like a beauty
Nope, nope,
card?
nope.
Okay.
It's the processing cap.
I will, processing caps, cool.
They fit over.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
they're really well on
And like
plates
with the
and
elastic, that
Yeah.
sounds really nice.
plates and bowls.
I've like never bought bags. I've always just like repurposed. Like
Yeah.
I use like bread bags and like all kinds of like weird. Like if we'll get something shipped and it has a skinny bag, I'm like, yes, like, you know, so it's mine. Tools. So, but I like to wrap that like that, and then leave this on, like I'll like leave that on, you know, a bat, or I have like, my shelves have like these lined on them as well. And then I'll put like, I hope this fits. This is too small, but I have big buckets at home. Like they're not like 5 gallon, but they're smaller. They're like that size. And those are like great for like making like a little like damp box kind of thing. And then I like really slow dry them because they do better that way. Unless, actually, I say that, but like a lot of times I end up with like 2 or 3 pots that are just like I stick them in the bisque and they're like definitely not totally dry. But I just do it really slow, and I actually haven't, it's been, what?
How many days?
The bisque fire?
No, till it's dry.
Oh, I mean, it usually takes like a week and a half. Like I usually dry it over about a week and a half. But after I do this and have it like covered for a day, then I'll take that off and I'll wrap it in like another bag, but I'll leave this on, and then the next day I take this off and wrap it in a bag, and it's like this really weird, like I don't know if it is doing anything good or if it's just like me being like OCD, like literally, you know, but it's just, I don't know. So anyway, after I do that and I get it dried to a certain point, I know. I clean it up.
I've been waiting since the beginning to say that.
So I go back through and I just clean up all of my marks from before.
So that's more bone dry or not yet quite?
No, I can still manipulate this if I press on it. It's like, I would say, I'm like, I feel like I'm real like illiterate in the like clay, like the terms, because I'm like, that could fit so many different things. But I feel like it's like leather hard,
This.
like pre leather hard, maybe,
Sure.
like right, like if like leather hard is right here, it's like maybe right here. I don't know. Does that make sense?
So not cream cheese. Good.
Yeah. And then yeah, I just go back through with like all of my variety of tools and clean them up. I usually like literally when I'm working alone, I usually do say hi to my pots. I'm like, hi little pot, how are you? How was drying? Are you moldy? Yeah, stuff like that. Who else talks to their pots? All right, cool.
I cuss at mine.
I curse.
So you two are. And And then I like sometimes on the foot I'll go back in and ooh, that had a little yucky. Okay. Just smooth out areas like that, and I'm pretty meticulous about it. I don't know how much you guys want to see of that. But yeah, I just go through and I check everything. And on this one, I actually put some Sanskrit and like now I'm blanking on the term, but like a chant on the inside. Om Mani Padme Hum. So I'm making this one for a friend, but that's like a special mantra for her. And so my thought with this is that it'll like whatever's in there, it'll like infuse that energy. I don't know.
How did you stamp it on the inside?
No, I drew it.
Oh, okay.
Just with the one of these little guys, and then after I went in with this. But that's an idea I'm kind of playing with, is like putting like little notes on the inside.
And you do that before.
Little FUs or
Suck it.
yeah.
You do that before you fold it all.
Yes,
together.
yes.
Are you gonna tell us about your decorating process?
Yeah, well, Caleb, that's next, and I should probably hand it over to you pretty soon here.
Okay, whenever you're ready, just kick it to me.
Okay, so after I get it cleaned up and make any adjustments that I might need to, I do that like psycho slow drying process, and then I bisque fire them. And after I bisque fire them, I take them out of the bisque, and I get some sandpaper wet, and I just go over the whole surface, including the lip, and then I dunk it in water and let it dry, and then I hand it over to him to paint. And I probably need to like clean up a little bit before you can.
Sure. Is there a pencil? I forgot a pencil.
I brought a pencil. That's because you had it and I grabbed it,
Okay.
so that's why you forgot it.
I would have forgot it no matter what. But then.
But now I don't know where I put it, so.
I have one if you need it.
If you
Hey, look.
if you keep your clay bag,
Pencil friends.
keep your clay bag and spritz your scraps and put them in the clay bag, you probably have a lot less reclaim.
Yes.
Like, just, what do you mean?
Water.
If that,
And put it
Spray
in the
bottle.
bag.
Put
And
in the
then
bag.
just wedge it up.
And then
Yeah.
it's soft and you rub it up.
Probably should do that.
And then you just do
See,
little
I
bits
just
at
have,
a
like-
time and then you don't worry.
I have like a graveyard
That's
of like old clay bags like shoved under my shelves, and then also like 2 huge buckets. It's like,
Yeah.
Well, those you can.
Then it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
If you
It really
do a
is.
little bit
So
at a
one
time.
of those bags in a bucket of water,
I've seen that. I've
That
seen
actually
people
works.
doing that.
Yeah, I just
and
did
you don't
that.
have to do any holes or anything. So
Make your kids do it.
you can start-
Oh, they would actually probably love that. Well, actually, I threw with my
No,
daughter
what-
recently.
There was another tip where it was working. Wait, what do you do?
I take those wet scraps and I put them in a piece of cloth, like a pillowcase, wrap it up, and that absorbs extra water and keeps the clay from getting yucky. But
Yeah.
it sort of evens itself out, and then after a while, it can be wedged easily.
That sounds
Do you put, like,
a lot
and
better too.
pieces in it, or just the pieces?
My graveyard.
I don't, if there's slip on this, I don't use slip, but if you use slip, then it'll just,
Equalize.
it will equalize because you've got it wrapped up in.
We gotta save our wrists, right?
I'm sorry. I
We
can't
have
hear
to
what you
save our wrists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with mentioning the pillowcases, I actually, when I like, after I do like the wrapping with the buckets and then the bag and then the next step is I dry them with like a double towel situation like this, and then I single it.
With
and
the
then
plastic
done.
bag still on, or with the
No, the
Okay.
plastic bag's off. But I do that to kind of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is just like
We
some
like to make our lives
weird-
really
It
hard.
can't hurt.
Yeah, right? What is up? Is everybody else doing this? Torture?
The key
Okay.
is what works for you.
Yeah. See, I mean, I don't know.
Once you stop doing it, it's gonna stop, things are gonna be cracking and everything, you're gonna be like, it was a towel.
Yeah. See, that's like, I've gotten superstitious. Okay, so another thing I'd like to show you guys before I hand it over to Caleb, because this has been, oh, sorry if I'm touching with my plastic. So, he built me this like awesome shelf, and it's kind of like, those like things that like people that draw houses, architects have. I know it's like way more
Drafting table.
complicated
It's
than
called a
that.
drafting table.
The drafting table.
No, not the table. So they have those like like really cool drawers.
Yeah.
That's also a
Flat
table.
file.
Okay, flat file.
Mhm.
So he built me this thing like a flat file for my slabs, and so I have all these like boards, and I can make like I'll just roll out an entire bag of clay, and then I have like these like different, I can like make 2 that are this thick, and like have like a progression so that when I'm working, I always like go into my studio and like, okay, first I have to like roll this slab out, and and then I get to the slabs that are already set up and ready. But that's helped a lot, because then I'm not like, I don't like get out to the studio and I'm like, I have no clay, I have to wait because I have to do this like weird complicated like slab rolling thing. And
So it is your own assembly line.
yeah, it's I mean, yeah, but for like 1 cup, so. Oh, this does need to stay like this. Okay. Oh, and but to keep the slabs like in from like getting dried out too fast, I like to like wipe the edges with a sponge, just like along the edge, and then I take a rib and I press this plastic in like that to give it a really nice like seal, and it helps the slab stay more even, and then I usually I'll have my plastic, I'll have this like rotated, but the slab's cut in such a way that it's not working that way, but I'll like tuck it under each side so that air's not just like getting in. But this plastic trick is also something you can do to like you can use, I mean, this type of plastic is too thick, but like saran wrap, you can like smooth that onto your clay. And like when I make these cups in porcelain, that's how I do this, because the porcelain is really finicky to hand build with, and to like want to manipulate it that far, it doesn't want to do the things that I want to do to it. So to kind of like give myself more of a fighting chance with having a cup that survives, I will rib the saran wrap, this just like really thin saran wrap, onto the clay, and then I cut the template out with the saran wrap still on it, and then I build the pot with the saran wrap on the whole time, smooth everything together, and then peel it off, and then I like let it dry slightly, and then I clean it up. So you can not only work with softer clay that way, but you can also do like your porcelains, and because like porcelain doesn't want to it doesn't want to be like dry, like this level of dryness, and like manipulated like that, like it is challenging. So oops. Anyways, yeah, so after I bisque and after I bisque fire them, sometimes I will apply like a flashing slip, but usually I haven't, like none of these have any flashing slips on them. I've really just been liking to see what the flames are going to do and what the soda ash. I love flashing slips, it's just, I've just been, really wanting to like play with the fire more. And I want to get into flashing slips more, but anyway. I sand the pot, and then I hand it over to him to paint. So
Puts them on a shelf, and several weeks later, I'm doing paint, but same thing.
So do you also do 1 cup at a time, or do you
Yeah, I
provide
mean,
them for?
it just kind of depends. A lot of our arrangement and how we do this stuff is like a time commitment type thing with the young kids. So a lot, and it's also like a last minute deal. A lot of times, like, oh, Dirt Dauber Clay Fest, and so we like get all excited, and Ashley goes, we both go nuts. And there's
You're
all
just
this pottery that's
ADHD
sitting
all
like
the way
this
up
that I
until
can
then.
paint, but so a lot of times I'll just like stay up late till 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, depending on how close we are to the show, and I one after the next. And sometimes I can do 3 or 4 in a night, sometimes 1 or 2. Some of them take me many hours to paint. And I'm trying to, like, that's kind of when I've been changing things up. Like, well, one cup might have 6 hours. I don't want to sell for $100.
Yeah.
I don't want to sell for $200 sometimes. So, but I also want stuff accessible, and I want people to enjoy these things. So, we just kind of have to balance that, and it's kind of been just like a playful thing. Starting out, whenever I started painting Ashley's pottery, I would do like image based. So there's kind of like, you know, this one mushrooms and pyramids and a little flower bud. I tattoo for a living. I've been doing that for 12 years, and so generally, whenever I started, it was like image based, whatever, tattoo kind of ideas, and sometimes it'd be like a little scene kind of going all the way around, would start on one end and kind of be whatever, and kind of make a full kind of commitment all the way through, and it would take me kind of a while to get these ideas on there. But then, you know, these little horrible drippies would happen, and I was like, oh, Ashley, what's happening, you know? And she's like, no, that's cool, that's like what potter's like, that's okay. And I looked at it, I was like, that is pretty sick, that is cool.
He was
You know?
like, he was like so bummed out about one of the cups, and I was like, that's the like coolest cup I've ever
Yeah.
seen that I've made.
And I agree
You
now,
know, I
like
was
we agree on this. And yeah, so it kind of like made me change, because some of it would just be like, well, that part of the cup, I knew it took me like an hour and a half, and now it's just like, I could have just done like whatever, I could have saved myself about an hour and 25 minutes. So I started doing like kind of image-based stuff, and some of that would, I mean, the ornamental kind of decorative. So on some of these, the way that I like to do it, let me get my, what did I do with my tool? This is my measuring tape that I made, because I kept stealing Ashley's, like, with the clothing one, that are the long, yeah, I have measuring tape used for construction, doesn't work. I have plenty of those, but it doesn't quite work, so I made a paper one, and for some reason I don't lose this, but I lose all of Ashley's other ones, and I have no clue. They're like 6 feet long, they're bright colored. I
They
don't know
like
what they
look,
are.
it looks like a snake, like, get the ones that you trapped.
So on some of them, I'll just kind of go over a couple of what I might do with these, and I can do like a little example on them. So basically, if I'm going to be doing something that's checkered pattern, it obviously needs to have an even number of kind of panels on it. So I'll measure it out, get a calculator out if I need to, divide it by 6, and I kind of know about where, how much they're going to be spaced. And I can measure it out, and I make little marks, and I've kind of done that over here. Over somewhere. There we go, right in front of my face. So on this one I've already drawn on.
Tell you the cooking show.
So, all right. We have all these break so fast because the kids, they're like, you know, doing anything they can to break our stuff. So I'll, you know, make a little notch, I kind of get them measured out, and then I kind of eyeball it. And sometimes, like this one's got even kind of patterns, and you can measure it if you want to, but on this one, since it kind of has faces, it's not as necessary. And it does not need to be even perfect in any way, and that will, and for one, makes it go faster, and 2, I think it actually looks cooler. So I'll make the marks, and I kind of can eyeball it, and you know, make these lines. This one's I've already done, so I don't know why I'm drawing on that, but you know, this is obviously the corner. I'll go up here, and I just eyeball it. My hands are shaking. I'm not like the best public speaker, but you know.
You're doing great.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just kind of go through, and right now, you know, this one I won't be doing checkered pattern, so it doesn't need to be 6 panels on here. It could be less, and it might be interesting since there's 3 faces to do 5 panels and to see how things lay on it. But I'm not gonna like do that right now because I'll have to think too much. So, you know, this one is kind of like, I'll show you an example of like what the idea I'm doing right here. You can kind of see it. I don't know if anybody can see this. It's got this kind of cool, I call it a turtle shell pattern. Yeah, I'll pass it around. Pass that around. And it's, you know, there's some examples up here that you probably can't see from further back. And I've done a couple that we brought to Dirt Daughter a couple weeks ago, and I did that all the way around, and it makes a cool kind of where it comes together, and they sold. They sold, we traded them, and they were popular. I love them. They were fun. And it's actually pretty easy for me to do, and it's, which is kind of like, makes it more meditative than like being like just so frustrated. Because pottery's so frustrating. It's me and Ashley, when we're like, we have a kiln that we're trying to like fire, and we've had 2 failed firings, and it's like, oh my god, like the first one was 28 hours. And we didn't reach temperature, and I was like, Ashley, I think she said, like, why aren't we like programmers, or like,
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I'm sure there's frustration with that, but I'm like so pissed that I'm not at a computer sometimes.
yeah,
Is it wood fire kiln or is it?
it's
No,
just,
it's
electric.
propane.
I don't even want to talk about it. I don't know, no, it's fine, I'm just joking.
You brought it up.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we're having issues. That would be a whole nother talk about all the issues we're having with that kiln. But yeah, so basically that pattern is something I've kind of hold on to. And with tattooing, with basically anything, I have these ideas that come up and they're cool, and I make them like, that wasn't quite it, and I do it again, and sometimes I do it over and over and over, and then I realize the first one was the best one, and I'm chasing my tail. Or I finally do one that's like super cool, and I'm like, all right, well, I kind of got what I wanted, and then I move on. And also if you have a collection, if like when we're selling stuff and I have like 8 of one type and they're not selling the way I want them to, or it's like I don't want to have everything the same, I'm going to move around and I'm going to do something a little bit different. So basically mine boils down to I pencil it on. These lines that are the horizontal lines, I want to do that at my house because it's so embarrassing how I do it. I don't do it on a banding wheel. A lot of times, like last night I did this, the one that's getting passed around. Sitting on the couch, my daughter was sleeping on my lap, and I was just like, you know, my tool was
Pop out fish.
yeah, pop fish, or you know, what is it? The Goodnight Moon. It's a little hard kids book, and I hold it on there, and I just like figure out, you know, on this one I measured. These are roughly about 1 inch, and I kind of made marks, you know, on there. And I get it, and I get like my hand kind of braced up, and it does not have to be perfect. And I just spin around like this. And the reason why I say I don't use the banding wheel is because I don't have a tool. If the banding wheel is spinning, what am I going to do? I don't have the proper tools. I know, I've seen them. The people have these things, they hook up the pencil and they spin around.
I can tell you, I've been an engineer and loving all tools. We tried it with the laser and everything. At the end of the day, what you just did is what that was the best.
Yeah, it doesn't take long, you know. And then sometimes I will, like if I'm being a little anal about it, I'll like stack up other kids' books, and then I like get it to where I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And then like I, you know, can do that way. And that's like that pretty much boils down how much I know about pottery.
That's not your design, that's just your grid lines, right? So you
It will turn to my design in a way, and sometimes I'll do it on like, you know, if I break it into different sections and I know roughly how it's going to be. I don't want to have everything, if it's going to be like one of these other pots that kind of has like different handles where there's like, you know, the swirls here, there's just kind of some triangle points, there's this mess right there, you know, the eyeballs and whatever. I'll kind of do that where I like really don't think about like where I'm gridding it out. I'll just draw like random lines. Sometimes I'll give like a little bump in there. And just kind of like make it funky without thinking about it too much. Because if you think about it too much, you're not gonna like it. You're gonna like, it's just gonna, well with me, you sit and stare at something for too long, it will just create its own issues. So I kind of like try to just like move and like get it going, because it's a slow process. And if you think about it too much, it kind of takes away some of the magic. So yeah, the grid lines for this purpose are gonna be basically the images. And the images that I did on the pot that's getting passed around, it's that kind of turtle pattern, and it just kind of makes squares, kind of round off the corners here, and I kind of just do these little star points, you know. And you can see, if you looked at this close, and probably looking at that pot that's going around, none of them are very exact. None of them need to be. I don't try to make them perfect. Because I try to whenever I'm doing the actual underglaze, you know, but following an imperfect line and trying to make it perfect kind of creates a little bit of magic there. And I think that if I was trying to make everything look super perfect, and it did, like, I don't know, we had experiments with doing screen printing on pottery to make it like more affordable, but still have the images that we like created. And I like them, but I don't like them nearly as much, just because it takes away that like element of a human doing it and seeing like little mistakes. And you know, as a tattooer, there's like some hotshot tattooers that you see on social media, and they're posting all this stuff. And I love like zooming in a little bit and just going, yeah, you kind of messed up right there. And it's because like you're human, you know, you're not, you know, whatever. And it's just like, it makes me feel better, because not that I've ever messed up a tattoo, but you do, and it's a part of
As long as
it.
you haven't done the no regrets one. No progress.
I haven't misspelled anything because I'll make sure that people spell it over and over. You make them write it down, and then it's happened where people give you the wrong kid's birthday, and they get a tattoo, and then they're like calling back, "Hey, can we fix this?" And I'm like, "Well, I have that in writing that you wrote your kid's birthday down wrong. I'm not gonna tell your kid, but don't get on Yelp because I've got your piece of paper." Yeah, she fortunately was able to figure it out, and that wasn't me. That was a coworker anyway. So yeah, basically we'll go through and I just kind of map stuff out, and the name of the game is really just don't worry about it being too perfect, because I really do try to focus with the underglaze, because it's like so frustrating whenever it starts getting tighter, and then it really does matter if you like mess up, because then you go and you get a little wet towel and you wipe it away, and you wipe away too much and it smears, then you're like, I should have just left it. What were you thinking? And yeah, so it's like make the perfections part, try to come on later if you are in that kind of mindset. So I thought about, since we don't really have a lot of like our image-based pottery here with us, and I haven't been making it for a little while. I do a little bit here and there. I have some, but it's like here's little skulls and barbed wire and blood, some lighthearted stuff. And I showed the other one, and it's just kind of like I do enjoy doing that, but that's like for my work. I do that all the time, and I don't I'm very happy doing that. Creating images and tattooing, it's fun, I love it. But I don't want to do that more than whenever I'm at work. I want to do something different. And so I kind of like, and also whenever I'm doing that stuff, I try not to do any shading with it, because like doing fades and stuff, it's like I feel like every time I do a fade with underglaze, I'm like reteaching myself. I'm like, is this going to look good? Is this going to look bad? And I fire it, and usually it's like, the part that I focus on the most gets all the magic drips. And I'm like, it didn't even matter in the first place.
Yeah, half tones for this, but.
Yeah,
They're not your friends.
I've done a decent amount with pretty good success, but it is also, I think that the stronger images, especially since we do very atmospheric kind of, the wood fired or soda fired and stuff. It's just like, why bother? It's the magic's in that is going to be like the combination of having an image that's, like in my head, the way that I kind of like start to picture our work looking sometimes is like that it's an artifact you found, like it's some,
Archaeology.
Yeah, kind of, but it's like a futuristic, Atlantis, like the people in Atlantis were using our cups, it's something silly, but I'm just like imagining like, oh yeah, it's like an artifact from like a lost civilization, and that's just like my nerdy kind of way of thinking about it, but that's why the soda firing is so cool, and getting rid of, or soda and wood and all that stuff. Cool, thank you. Because it's like, it just makes it look like, particularly with the pattern going over it, and then that kind of just getting, the drips and because even if it's the same pattern, even if you do it perfect or whatever you're imagining, having it be like, just this side looks like a different pot from this side, just as far as like, especially the ones that like this one got really roasted on one side.
That one was wood fired, but next to a soda refire, and that was like glazed with some kind of cobalt glaze, and it just got like blasted with this like cobalt and soda, and it was like really cool. It's like, can you always put refires right next to mine, please?
But yeah, so if it's the same pattern, it's kind of like you get different magic on different sides from it. So I really have kind of gotten drawn into doing just like a same pattern all over, and I basically show you how I gridded this out at least a little bit. I can show actually underglazing it. I don't have any special tricks. I feel like very underqualified to be giving any talks about this, because I really don't know what I'm doing. I just like asked Ashley, like, do I use this? She's like, yeah, okay, I'll use this. And then I just do it, and then that's about as much as I know. It was like, just ask her, does this work?
All our teachers would say, well, give it a try. So
Yeah.
she's actually doing the same thing that we were taught.
Output before input.
Yeah. So usually I have a little thing I'll pour it into, but since I'm not going to be painting very much, I'll just put it in the cap.
Why do you call it painting?
Because I don't know what I'm doing. The underglazing, yeah. Well, you paint it on, right? I don't know.
Using a brush.
Yeah, so this is just, I typically just use black. And So let's see. I try to be fairly sturdy about it as far as like having support and stuff. And you know, I just kind of go and this is pretty tedious. I'm just kind of bring it, I pull it, keep going. Whenever it starts to feel like it's not as thick or kind of pulling on there, I'll reload it.
So this is gonna be a very silly question, but how do you find the difference between doing the needle for a tattoo and, I mean, besides the fact that the pot doesn't move, but in terms of your hand management?
Well, it's so different. It's hard to say that because it's like there's factors with tattooing where, you know, okay, so that's like people either tattoo off the tube or they tattoo off the needle. And when you tattoo off the needle, you hang the needle out further. And it's kind of like this. It's kind of like painting and you're just kind of floating it. If you push down too hard, it's going to get wider. And if you don't push down hard enough, it'll be thinner. And it's kind of like more relatable in that way. I don't tattoo that way. I tattoo off the tube and I just sink down the needle in people's skin and pull it across the stencil and it creates a uniform line. And yeah, you've been tattooed, you know it's not, you know. I do it with more finesse than that. I look at what I'm doing. Yeah.
It's actually really gentle.
That was a coworker.
So, like,
Yeah. If it's bad, it's a coworker. It wasn't me. Yeah. So, and I will sometimes like. I typically will go over the line more than once. I do it twice. Whenever I first started, the first pots that I ever painted that went into a wood firing, I didn't really know that, and all the lines it didn't look great. So I always do stuff twice, which if you're doing it twice, you have twice the chance of not painting on the same line. So sometimes you'll make a perfect line, I'm like, awesome, and then you go back and you do it, and you're like, well, and then you gotta wipe it off, and you know, whatever. So sometimes I worry about that, and sometimes I don't, you know, but I will do everything twice just to make sure it's on there. And certain things are like, that's actually not entirely true. If I'm doing something that is along the lines of these eyes, or whenever I'm doing like the middle part of some of these like patterns, I just really load up the brush and get it on there thick, and I don't have to do it twice. But whenever I'm doing like a thin line and I need it to be somewhat, you know, even and just have a level of finesse to it, I got to do it a little bit lighter. And I did experiment with like the first line. I'd mix up like underglaze, and then I would have another little cap that I put a little water in, so it'd be thinner, and it would kind of like brush on a bit easier, and it would kind of, I mean, I don't know this, but this is what I tell myself, that it kind of like sucks in and hydrates that part of the pottery. That way, whenever I go in and I load up the brush with full underglaze and no water mixed in with it, it kind of sits on top of that other layer, and it really lays it on a bit better. And the first layer is easier to put on because it's not as thick and gunky and whatever. So I experimented with that, but it was like a little bit much of a hassle to have two different glazes and try to come up with a consistency of, you know, basically having it be similar each time. So just using the same underglaze, it's always about the same. This won't be the same if I leave the cap off for forever, but yeah, so I'll just go through and kind of go over the marks, and you know, for me, something that like, so the first off, that was cool to see. I've never seen you build a pot before, which is weird to say because we trade off. I'm with the kids and she's doing pottery, and so I get home and it's kind of like little, you know, like I see the pottery and I get to paint it, and the next day she gets to see it in the morning, so it's kind of cool. I've never seen it then.
You should take my class sometime.
Yeah. Do you like arguing?
slabs.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I forgot what I was saying, because I was like, I wanted to mention that I'd never seen it done like beginning to end, so it's pretty cool.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I didn't really remember what I was going to say with that, so. So I do now. For a long time, I don't know why, I think because I had in my head, like, it's gotta be even, we gotta get this like level, I would always stop before the rim. And it does look cool, and sometimes we did that because we were like, now whenever I underglaze them, we'll bisque them again and then actually
Oh
hit-
yeah, this is
didn't
major, guys.
dip whatever she does with the.
Clear.
So for the longest time, I was like doing this like weird taping thing to try to like not get glaze on the outsides of the pots. Cause I was like, well, the underglaze, like, it'll get wiped off if I have to clean up a drip, or a drip will mess something up, and I want the drips from the kiln, not from the glaze, you know? And then I realized, like, you can, like, bisque fire something twice. So now I bisque them on after he underglazed them, so they get like a second bisque. So it's like, makes it so much easier to glaze, cause then like you don't mess up. Like he's done this beautiful painting and worked so hard on it, and then I mess it up because like I can't like, you know, glaze with like finesse, you know?
And some underglazes, like the speedball underglazes, sometimes they work great, sometimes they don't work great. So when I do paintings, like the geometric designs,
Mhm.
I piece twice.
Yeah, see, it makes such a difference. And you know, some things just take you like a really long time to figure out, even when they're that obvious.
What about painting greenware?
We've had a little bit of, I don't like doing that, but when we've done like our screen print,
yeah.
we'll do it on the greenware, and then Ashley will
See,
do whatever.
I've been trying to figure that out, but like, you know, like I want to screen print on like a very wet slab, and so it doesn't really want to take much of the print. And so I'm having trouble with that, and I've been experimenting, but like the amount of time I've spent on it is like not what it should be for doing a